Once upon a time, in the small town of Bethlehem, there lived a young woman named Ruth. This isn't just any love story, it's a story of loyalty, kindness, and finding hope in unexpected places. So, grab a seat and let me tell you about Ruth and Boaz. Our story begins with Ruth, a woman from Moab. She wasn't originally from Bethlehem. She had married into an Israelite family, but tragedy struck. Her husband, brother-in-law, and father-in-law all passed away. But Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, decided to return to her original hometown of Bethlehem, bitter and broken. She urged Ruth to stay behind and start a new life for herself in town of Moab. But Ruth, full of love for her mother-in-law, refused to leave her side. She said these famous words, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." Ruth's loyalty wasn't just to Naomi. It was to her faith and her belief that somehow, together, they would make it through in life. Getting to Bethlehem, Ruth did whatever she could to help her mother-in-law. One day, she went to a field to gather leftover grain so they could have something to eat. Little did she know, the owner of that field would change her life forever. Boaz had heard about Ruth's loyalty to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and he was impressed. He approached Ruth and spoke kindly to her. Ruth was humbled by his kindness and thanked him. She couldn't believe how generous this stranger was towards her. When Ruth told Naomi about Boaz, Naomi's eyes lit up in pleasure. It turns out Boaz was a relative of Naomi's late husband. In their culture, this meant Boaz had the opportunity to help them in a very special way if he so pleases. So Naomi came up with a plan. She told Ruth to visit Boaz at night, after the harvest celebration, to ask for his protection as their family guardian. Note, this wasn't a romantic gesture. It was a request for Boaz to take responsibility for her and Naomi, to help rebuild their lives as a family relative. According to their tradition, there was another man who ought to take responsibility for Ruth and her mother-in-law. The next day, Boaz being an honorable man, he met with the other man in front of the town elders. He explained the situation, and when the other man chose not to step in, Boaz then declared his intention to marry Ruth and take care of Naomi. And just like play, Ruth and Boaz were married. Their love wasn't just about romance. It was built on kindness, loyalty, and a shared hope for the future. As time passed, Ruth and Boaz had a son, Obed, who later became the grandfather of King David. Through Ruth's faithfulness and Boaz's generosity, God brought hope and restoration to a family in need. And their story reminds us of the power of loyalty, kindness, and trusting in the goodness of others. The story of Ruth teaches us that love is more than just feelings. It's about commitment, kindness,